it has broken the internet. A mom who sent a letter about her daughter's death to the manager and the company. What do you think of this entire situation?
College to job का shift कोई सिखाता नहीं कि कैसे करना है. People are evaluating you. Politics होता है. And then obviously on top of that सबको अपना success दिखता है. थोड़ा selfishness भी आता है. But yeah, I mean, terrible to hear this thought. Terrible to hear about the story. No one should go through what she went through, and especially now what her family is going through. That is what happened with me also. मैं बहुत ज़्यादा pressure feel करने लग गया था. मतलब to give you an example, मैं दिन के 6-7 घंटा Instagram देखता था to cope up with what was happening around me. My average screen time was 6-7 hours in the office. So मैं अगर कुछ काम भी कर रहा हूँ तो मेरे साइड में Instagram चल रहा है and Reels चल रहे हैं.
If you had to describe probably that phase in like the mental health situation in just like one word or one sentence, what would it be like to sum it up?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's just sad. It's sad the person I had become in that period. The sad that I let myself become that person. It's sad that I took so much pressure around what was happening. And it's sad कि मैं ये सोचता था कि ये change ही नहीं हो सकता, ये तो uncontrollable है, you know. बहुत easily it changed and changed positively for me. But when you are in that, when you're in that well or shit hole, तब फिर और कुछ दिखता ही नहीं. सिर्फ खुद पे empathy, खुद पे शायद कोई मेरी बात नहीं समझ सकता, मैं जो जा रहा हूँ कोई नहीं समझ पाएगा, किससे बात.
I feel in general there has to be a shift of those lens in this culture.
In general, if let's say you are a person जिसको पता है कि therapy helps, अंदर तुम बात करो, लोगों को बताओ कि अरे करके देख, ट्राई करके देख क्या होता है. Make it very casual and normal in your conversation.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the 6th episode of The Mind Matters. In this episode, we are going to touch upon a very critical topic that we've recently heard about, a case wherein a female 26-year-old died because of the work pressure. And then on a similar lines, I wanted to bring in Nitin here, who's joining me today because he's faced such similar situations in his work life before. And this is something that we think is very necessary given the hustle culture that has come up recently and has become a very cool thing. So I would like to introduce Nitin to this podcast. Bhai, with that, let's get started. Thoda introduction kar de tere bare mein ki who is Nitin, what you are doing right now, and work related kya chal raha hai.
Okay, so thanks for having me here. Yeah, I'm a very normal guy. Mumbai में पला बड़ा हूँ. Normally CBSE board. Engineer in 2015. So part of in 2019. तो अभी 5 साल हो गया almost काम करते हुए. Did my engineering in civil engineering, but like most engineers, you change your field. तो मेरे को realize हो गया कि मेरे लिए नहीं है, तो मैं उधर से निकल के फिर now मैं sales और marketing में घुस चुका हूँ. Wherein मैं कंपनी के लिए काम कर रहा हूँ, which is again a startup. 100-150 लोगों की टीम है. The company is also not very old. 2016 में start हुई है, so the company is also very new. Bootstrap, so अलग struggles हैं. So yeah, a very fast-paced company, and मैं उनका sales and marketing देख रहा हूँ.
Let's get to the topic of this podcast. So this theme is going to be more on like work-related mental health struggles, issues, well-being that we are going to talk about. तो ऐसे ही हम बातें कर रहे थे, and then we saw that in the recent times, internet is like, it has broken the internet. कि a mom who sent a letter about her daughter's death to the manager and the company. I'm not going to get into the details because we don't want to get into that, but we all know that her mom says that like itna work pressure tha, and she's hustled so much ki she got health issues and everything, and then at the end unfortunately she died. And then I feel the worst part that she mentions is ki koi aaya bhi nahi, like from her work nobody came to support her or even like talk or like console her mom. I feel personally anything in life is replaceable, but your life isn't replaceable. And then, but in that moment, you get very caught up. What do you think? What do you think of this entire situation? क्या लग रहा है तुझे? Like views, thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's not as straightforward as we see in social media, as we feel. True, बहुत सारे thoughts होते हैं, बहुत सारे challenges होते हैं, right? हम सिर्फ एक कंपनी का पर्सपेक्टिव देख रहे हैं, बट वहाँ पे हजारों और एम्प्लॉयज भी है, राइट? एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ है दैट द पर्सन वाज जस्ट 4 months इनटू द कंपनी, which I feel is very very important in the entire dynamics. कि one thing which we don't realize is कि कॉलेज टू जॉब का शिफ्ट कोई सिखाता नहीं है कि कैसे करना है. कॉलेज इज वेरी डिफरेंट देन जॉब. कोई वर्क प्रेशर नहीं होता, फ्रीडम होता है. आपको जो क्लास अटेंड करना है वो करो, कोई कुछ कहने वाला नहीं होता है. एंड सडनली इन अ मैटर ऑफ डेज, नॉट इवन मंथ्स, यू आर एक्सपेक्टेड टू फॉलो अ रूटीन, लिसनिंग टू पीपल. कॉलेज में यू आर टेस्टेड वंस इन अ सेमेस्टर एंड यू आर सॉर्ट ऑफ ग्रेडेड. तुम्हारा सक्सेस एक बार पता चलता है. In a job, it's day in, day out. Every meeting, you are somewhere tested. People are evaluating you. Politics hota hai. And then obviously on top of that, you are surrounded with people जो हर कोई हर चीज़ अलग चाहता है, सबको अपना सक्सेस दिखता है, थोड़ा सेल्फिशनेस भी आता है. Plus how the culture of the company is. So there are too many things I think involved in this one scenario which lead to such decisions. It cannot just be one aspect. But yeah, I mean, terrible to hear this thought, terrible to hear about the story. No one should go through what she went through, and especially now what her family is going through. And yeah, like you rightly said, that no one came from the company. That shows what kind of environment there is in usual corporates, and that is one thing that definitely stands out.
Got it. Yep. Do you think this could have been avoided?
मतलब मेरे को लगता है इसमें लाइक आई से कि बहुत सारे अलग अलग पार्टीज हैं, बहुत सारे अलग अलग सिनेरियोज हैं. एंड टू अवॉइड सच अ सिनेरियो इन दिस सिनेरियो और इन द फ्यूचर, एवरीवन हैज टू प्ले देयर रोल. सो टेकिंग फ्रॉम माय एक्सपीरियंस, मैं अपना बताता हूँ. जब मैं कॉलेज खत्म किया, आई थिंक आई रिमेंबर माय कॉलेज एंडेड 28 मई के आसपास. इट वाज अ थर्सडे. फ्राइडे सैटरडे संडे हम लोग लोनावला चले गए दोस्तों के साथ चिल करने के लिए. एंड मंडे आई जॉइन माय फर्स्ट जॉब, राइट? थिंग्स हैपेंड विद मी वेयर मैंने अपना फर्स्ट जॉब 7 दिन में छोड़ के आई स्विच टू द अदर जॉब. सो विद इन अ मैटर ऑफ 2 weeks आई हैड टेकन 2 big life decisions. एंड देन आई रीच अ प्लेस जहाँ पे इट वाज अ कंप्लीट कल्चरल चेंज फॉर मी. लाइक आई वाज सेइंग कि यार फ्रीडम पूरा चला जाता है. You have to reach at a certain time. You have to punch out at a certain time. You're responsible for a few things. There are people who will say good things about you. There are people who will say bad things about you. There are people who are older than you and will see, oh, this person has come at this designation, this salary. So they will say negative things about you. So there are too many factors involved. So coming back to what you were asking, how can we avoid this or can this be avoided? Of course it can be avoided. But I think there are multiple parties in play over here. I think the first and the foremost I would say is the company. And let's just talk about the company for a minute. What a company's culture is, how do they treat their employees, the kind of freedom लोगों को मिलता है. And by freedom I don't mean कि आप ऑफिस में सो रहे हो, कुछ कर रहे हो, बट कितना आपको बोलने का मौका मिल रहा है, कितना आप बात कर सकते हो, आप अपनी डेस्क पे अपने साइड वाले के साथ कितना आराम से बात कर सकते हो. क्या आप डर के ऑफिस में बैठे रहते हो कि मेरा बॉस मेरे को देख लिया तो सोचेगा कि मैं काम नहीं कर रहा हूँ. क्या आप जब चाहिए चाय पीने जा सकते हो. जैसे आई नो माई करेंट कलीग्स इसमें एक कि पुराने कंपनी में हाउ मच टाइम ही टुक टी ब्रेक्स और बाथरूम ब्रेक्स वाज आल्सो अकाउंटेड फॉर. सो you know that's the kind that's insane, that's terrible. And वही है ना, वो freedom of college suddenly vanishes and you are suddenly put into a situation जहाँ पे हर साइड से आप पे वो अलग अलग चीजों का प्रेशर आ रहा है. I think no one likes that big change. Plus I think everyone craves that freedom, right? कि आज छुट्टी ले सकता हूँ, नहीं ले सकता, आज आधे दिन में चले जाता हूँ. So I feel that definitely is one of the most important factor. And obviously there are others also which we'll discuss. But yeah, from a company standpoint, that plays a very important role.
True. I remember my difference India में मैं जो working का culture face किया हूँ versus US के culture में मैं जब देखता हूँ, like I am myself मैं खुद थोड़ा सा सरप्राइज हो गया था कि ओ ये सब भी होता है यहाँ पे. It's normal to take breaks. It's normal to just go out of office for an hour or two और फिर बोलो कि ठीक है ये मेरी अपॉइंटमेंट है ऐसे वैसे. You think a lot job, and especially in India it's like when you are starting your career out it is very different. Let's talk about your situation. Let's talk थोड़ा details into the situation where you switched and वो cultural difference था. What exactly happened during that time with you?
And also, like I said, within a matter of a week, I joined the company. जहाँ पे, so to give you a background, I had joined through a reference, through my cousin's reference. So someone known had recommended me in that company. It's a well-known company in India, right? And it's a family sort of run business. So बहुत ही traditional way में they work.
Yeah.
Defined processes हैं, defined तरीके से काम होता है, लोग ऑफिस आते हैं, जाते हैं, and so forth, right? Now, when I reached the office, the first task that was given to me was not as exciting, right? I remember the first week I was feeling कि यार 4 साल का engineering ये काम करने के लिए कैसा है क्या? That was the feeling that went through. And to give you a background, I have been brought up as a child जो my father always used to say कि तू कुछ भी कर लेगा सही कर लेगा. So I've always had that थोड़ा level of overconfidence कि मैं थोड़ा level पे तो मचाने वाला हूँ. And then when you go and you do बहुत ही manual work, rigorous work, without knowing कि उसका impact क्या होने वाला है, कि किसी को क्या फर्क पड़ने वाला है, किसी को क्या उसका outcome आएगा, your value in your mind goes down very, very low. Right? So that is the first thing that happened with me कि मैं खुद का मेरा value बहुत नीचे चला गया था. Then how your peers are treating you, right? I had good peers, I had a manager. Now they expected things to be done in a certain way, right? Now उस expectation को match कर पाना, especially when you're not enjoying the work, when you don't like the work, you make mistakes because you're not doing it for a month से ना, तो फिर mistakes होते थे, उस पे डांट खाता था, तो somewhere I had, एक fear आ गया था कि मैं गलती करूँगा, my manager would say this, she would feel bad or XYZ, right? So that added to another level of pressure. And it's not just the culture here. I think there are multiple other things that add to the pressure. For example, like I was saying, the freedom, college में freedom होता है कि यार class नहीं पसंद आ रहा है, निकल के जाओ, chill करके आ जाओ. You can't leave a job, right? That is not an option that is told. At least India में तो ये बोला ही नहीं जाता कि तुम job छोड़ दो. Especially when you've gotten a job जो is paying you better than what you would have your peers are getting paid. फिर तो एक और होता है कि यार इतनी अच्छी जॉब, इतना पैसा मिला, क्यों छोड़ना चाहता है, क्या करना चाहता है. So that freedom also is taken away. आसपास के लोग तुम्हारी बात समझ नहीं पाते, तुम बहुत यार बचपना होता है, समझ भी नहीं आता किस तरह की बात करो, किससे नहीं करो. अपने दोस्तों से बात करते हैं तो वो आधी चीज समझ पाते, आधी नहीं समझ पाते, एम्पैथाइज जरूर करते, सपोर्ट जरूर करते हैं, बट कोई गाइड करने के लिए नहीं है कि सही रास्ता क्या है. तो all that adds to pressure. And then in my particular scenario, what additional happened is कि, and I think not just me, but for everyone, India में, and correct me if I'm wrong, कि US में ऐसा है कि नहीं, but at least एक वो है कि तुमने जॉब लिया, तुम 2 साल से पहले छोड़ोगे तो तुम्हारा रेज्यूमे खराब हो जाएगा. वो एक होता है. तो वो एक बहुत एडिशनल प्रेशर है कि यार कितना भी खराब जॉब हो, ब्रांड है, अच्छा नाम है, डेजिग्नेशन अच्छा है, सैलरी अच्छी है, तो इधर तो 2 साल तक रुकना है, तो all your options of moving out have suddenly disappeared. लगता है कि यार ये तो और कुछ ना कर ही नहीं सकता यार, अब तो ये तो करना ही है, मेरे पास कोई चॉइस ही नहीं है, right? And when you feel helpless and hopeless, it becomes very, very difficult. तो the hope कि यार कुछ और अच्छा हो जाएगा, कुछ अच्छा काम मिल जाएगा, शायद सिनेरियो चेंज होगा, once that starts going down and your self-confidence is already very, very low, so all those start adding a lot of pressure. And I think that is what happened with me also. मैं बहुत ज़्यादा प्रेशर फील करने लग गया था. मतलब गिव यू एन एग्जांपल, मैं दिन के 6-7 घंटा इंस्टाग्राम देखता था to cope up with what was happening around me. My average screen time was 6-7 hours in the office.
So in the office?
In the office. So मैं अगर कुछ काम भी कर, मैं काम नहीं कर रहा हूँ, तो that was my way of coping up. खाने के रील्स देखते जा रहा हूँ, बहुत binge eat करते हुए स्ट्रेस होता था, binge eat, चॉकलेट्स बहुत खाए हैं. So those were my sort of ways of dealing with it. But I mean, and those are not the right ways to deal with such scenarios, right?
Never.
That's just a coping mechanism. But that is what I did for 6-7 months. I spoke to a lot of people, but again, another aspect कि when you're at that age, you feel कि तुम्हारे दोस्त तुम्हें सबसे अच्छा समझ पाएंगे. But unfortunately, वो भी उतने experience नहीं होते कि they can guide you in the right direction. You don't know who to go and ask. If you go and ask the wrong person, they'll say कि अरे सबका job ऐसा होता है. सब job ही तो है. Personal life भी होना जरूरी है. एक साल गेसिए, 2 साल गेसिए, फिर कुछ अच्छा मिल जाएगा. So that's when बहुत सारा confusion होता है, बहुत सारा darkness होता है, और clarity नहीं होता है कि क्या करना है. And that I feel adds to a lot of pressure. And within all this, if you don't have your support systems, it becomes very, very difficult, which I'm sure happened with that girl as well. Fortunately, I had a very good support system with my friends, family, even my colleagues to a certain level. But that's super, super important.
Okay. If you had to describe probably that phase in like the mental health situation in just like one word or one sentence, what would it be like to sum it up?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's just sad. It's sad the person I had become in that period, the sad that I let myself become that person. It's sad that I took so much pressure around what was happening. And it's sad कि मैं ये सोचता था कि ये चेंज ही नहीं हो सकता, ये तो uncontrollables है. You know, बहुत easily it changed and changed positively for me. But when you are in that, when you're in that well or shit hole, तब फिर और कुछ दिखता ही नहीं. सिर्फ खुद पे empathy, खुद पे शायद कोई मेरी बात नहीं समझ सकता, मैं जो जा रहा हूँ कोई नहीं समझ पाएगा, किससे बात करूँ.
Self pity भी comes into
pity भी आता है, self pity आता है. एक टाइम के बाद you stop talking to people, क्योंकि I mean like most guys do, right? हम मजाक उड़ाते हैं जब किसी से बात करते कि so all that happens. So I just feel कि that's a sad phase to go through for anyone. I mean, for the first 6-7 months, I didn't feel कि anything was in my control. Like, I felt कि this is how it is and I have to live with it. Being very honest with you, 5-10% मेरे कंट्रोल में था कि आजू बाजू वाले दूसरे 3 लोगों से बात कर लूँ कि कुछ और अच्छा काम दे दो, कुछ अच्छा एक्सपोजर दे दो. 5 or 10% barely. At least that was my state of mind back then, right? But the reality of it is very, very different. बहुत कुछ कंट्रोल में होता है. First, how you see the scenario is in your control. Second, how you talk to people about it and whom you talk to is in your control, right? And then third, how do you plan to move out of that scenario is something that is in your control. But yeah, I mean, when you are in that shithole, when you're in that well, it becomes very difficult to think clearly. And like I was saying, you need the right kind of people to guide you in that scenario.
Like, did you speak to your manager or like your supervisor about this? And क्या हुआ था in such a situation? Like, how did they react? Or like, was it the way that तुझे जैसा चाहिए था वैसे था वो?
So I tried doing multiple things. My main problem was that I was not enjoying the work.
हाँ.
Right, मेरे को लग रहा था काम बहुत ही एडमिन काम है, कोई बहुत ही जूनियर लेवल रिसोर्स भी कर सकता है. मतलब I'm smart enough to do something better is what I would mean. So yes, I did talk to my manager about it, but her response was कि Nitin अपनी टीम में तो यही काम है. When I got that response, I would go and talk to peers जो अलग अलग टीम से काम कर रहे हैं. मैं सीक्रेटली उनको हेल्प करता था, सीक्रेटली उनसे बात करता था. They would come and take feedback from me, run ideas for me, but not in the capacity कि हम बहुत openly वो कर रहे हैं in the scenario. Because the environment was such, you know, कि every team has a role, every person has a role, everyone works individually. Collaborativeness थोड़ा कम था around my team and the people around. So वही बोलूँ कि the people around me were supporting me and they were guiding me very, very well. But my manager could not understand the scenario that I was going through. And it was not her entire fault also, because she was in a structure or an organization where things were set. तो उसको जितना काम मिलता था वो मेरे को पास ऑन कर देती थी. But it was not enough for me. Now, she had made peace with that, right? But I couldn't do that. So, इसलिए there was a big mismatch in understanding and, you know, the entire thing.
Got it. Okay. What did you do next in order to, like, there is a moment of realization कि now shit is hitting the fan, अभी मुझे तो कुछ तो करना पड़ेगा इसके बारे में. क्या था and उसके बाद क्या किया तूने?
I think the biggest realization for me was कि I had gotten comfortable with that environment. when I realized that कि हाँ चल रहा है, सही चल रहा है, पैसे आ रहे हैं, खुश हो रहा है, and then I don't know how, but it यार ऐसे तो नहीं हो सकता, मतलब if I want to be Elon Musk, मैं ऐसे काम करके तो Elon Musk नहीं बनने वाला. That doesn't even add up. So that was the thought process, and that's where I think the change came in. कि ऐसे तो work नहीं होगा. So what I did was, again, I went to the other peers, asked them कि can we formally make an arrangement where I could get more work. They spoke to the supervisor, seniors, but it could not turn out. I went out. I spoke to a cousin who runs his own business. So I asked him कि यार ऐसा सिनेरियो है, मैं गलत सोच रहा हूँ क्या कि वो रेज्यूमे के लिए एक साल रुकना पड़ेगा क्या? What is the major impact I can feel around it? I think that resume one was a big issue. Like that was the only reason I was taking. But now it was easy for me to take the decision to leave. 2-3 people gave me validation कि यार if you are completely not okay with it, then there's no sense of keep working. You work in that environment. निकल जा, शायद से तेरे को कम सैलरी मिले, शायद से तेरे को फ्री में काम करना पड़े, इंटर्न बनना पड़े, but your situation can change. And I was very okay with that. I was very okay with going and working as an intern in a company. And that's what I eventually did also. I left that company, worked as an intern in a very early startup. I took a salary drop for the first few months. And that was a very big decision I had to take to get out of that equation. The moment पैसा, resume, status of the brand that I was working with, they went out of that scenario, it was very easy for me to take that decision because then it was just about me and what I want to do. बाकी सब इतना matter नहीं कर रहा है.
I feel like with me as well, this was a situation where when I was in India, I was working as a software engineer. Now this comes in from like तुम engineering कर रहे हो, I did computer engineering. उसके बाद क्या करना है, सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर ही बनो. बट व्हेन आई वेंट इनटू द जॉब, आई रियलाइज्ड कि ठीक है, आई कैन डू दिस, आई कैन मेक इट वर्क, बट दिस इज नॉट समथिंग दैट आई वुड लव टू वर्क. लाइक आई डोंट सी माई सेल्फ डूइंग द सेम थिंग 5 years डाउन द लाइन. आई वांट टू वर्क मोर टूवर्ड्स कि जहाँ पे वो इंटरसेक्शन है टेक का और बिजनेस का. एंड देन ये करते करते व्हेन आई केम टू द यूएस कर रहा हूँ, लाइक बट देन वही था कि कौन जॉब देगा, लाइक कोई एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, वो रेज्यूमे पे भी ऐसे कोई बिग कंपनी नेम्स नहीं है. 1 year आफ्टर माई ग्रेजुएट डिग्री इंटर्नशिप, एक तो सबसे पहले फ्री अनपेड जॉब पे मैंने काम किया था फॉर लाइक 2 months, आफ्टर विच आई गॉट एन इंटर्नशिप. वो इंटर्नशिप वॉज ऑल्सो सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियरिंग की थी बिकॉज इट वॉज लाइक कुछ तो करना है. Like I cannot stay without earning anything in this country because it's expensive. वो हुआ, but वहाँ पे I was like कि I want to do more of product management and they were giving me the work which was hopefully that. Got converted, which wasn't like a high paying job because it was a startup. उसके बाद पता चला कि वो bankrupt होने वाली है. Then वो होने के बाद thankfully a friend referred for a product management internship. सो वो इंटर्नशिप भी 6 चली, 6 महीने चली. तो फॉर 1 year आफ्टर द ग्रेजुएशन दैट आई डिड, इट टुक मी 1 year टू पिवट माई करियर. एंड लाइक यू सेड, व्हेन resume goes out of picture, the salary thing goes out of picture, but there is fulfillment in the work that you do because now you know कि now you took a foot, you are doing what you love, and इसके बाद the next steps are easier to take because I am a person who feels कि अगर मैं सुबह उठ रहा हूँ और मुझे वो 8 घंटे काम करना है, 8 से 10 घंटे का अगर मैं काम कर रहा हूँ कोई भी चीज़ पे, आई शुड फील लाइक डूइंग इट. तभी मैं जाके उस पर पूरा 100% दूंगा. वो भले ही फिर थोड़े ही लाइक कम पैसे कमा रहा हूँ या कोई बड़े ब्रांड के लिए काम नहीं कर रहा हूँ.
Sort of, let me just ask you this, कि यार you were doing this in US and तुमने इंडिया में भी एक sort of internship और a job किया था, right after college, I remember. Was this ever a question in your mind or the people around you asking this question, or at least a pressure, mental pressure था कि यार engineering के बाद बंदा घर पे बैठा है, कुछ नहीं कर रहा है, internship कर रहा है versus a job कर रहा है? What was that sort of scenario also affecting the decisions you are making?
Very good question. I feel partially not 100%, because I had applied for my masters. मैं masters तो करने ही वाला था. तो my family was pretty much okay with me not doing something, but there is also ये तुम खुद को भी एक अलग perceive करते हो. Like you perceive yourself in a different way, and then somewhere I feel subconsciously जब लोगों से बात कर रहा था कि ठीक है अभी मैं US जाने वाला हूँ, तो अभी मैं कुछ नहीं कर रहा हूँ या अभी मैं internships के लिए अप्लाई कर रहा हूँ, people were like, हाँ ये क्या कर रहा है? Like there is a gap in your resume. There is a gap in your resume, और उसके वजह से I then was like कि ठीक है चलो, like let me start looking for internships, or there was some sort of like, it was hitting me. Yeah, I wouldn't lie, it was somewhere hitting me कि जल्दी से वो टाइम आ जाए when I have to fly and US में आके मेरी पढ़ाई चालू करता हूँ, ताकि now I have like, it's also I don't know, it's also a societal pressure होता है एक, that one, you are the eldest in the family, 2, you've become an engineer, 3, you need to do something with your life, and then that is already, it's like a precursor जो build up होता है तुम जब तक 21-22 साल के होते हो, and उसके बाद you also start looking down on yourself if you don't fulfill those things. Do you think that?
I totally agree, and I think this also brings back to our original point of what would have happened with that girl. If you think of it in a way कि अच्छी पढ़ाई थी, I'm sure कि सैलरी अच्छी थी. Now अगर वो जाके अपने दोस्तों को, अपने फैमिली को ये बोलते हैं कि मेरे को काम में मजा नहीं आ रहा है, what kind of reactions would she get? She would get कि क्या बोल रहे हो यार, ऐसे काम के लिए तो लोग मरते हैं, EY के लिए काम करने के लिए तो लोग मरते हैं, फलाना ढमकाना. And what that does is फिर सेल्फ क्वेश्चन आने लगता है, यार मैं कुछ गलत कर रहा हूँ क्या, मेरे साथ कुछ प्रॉब्लम है क्या, मैंने कुछ अच्छा नहीं किया क्या. And I think and this is something I've learned from you, and I know about your experience also. This changes a lot from person to person also. For example, just between the two of us, you have always been one of those people की 10th में एकदम top of the class, 12th में top of the class, college में top of the class. Now what that does is कि pedestal दिमाग में भी बन जाता है कि मैंने तो काफ़ी अच्छा किया है, लाइफ में मैंने तो काफ़ी अच्छा किया है. फेलियर का इतना आदत नहीं होता है कि गलतियां का नहीं पता कि यार गलती होगी तो क्या सिनेरियो. एंड the moment you make the first mistake, it becomes so big in your mind because you are not a person who was sort of going to fail in life or has ever failed in life, right? So I think that entire experience of your college, of your school, also adds to this entire scenario where you're suddenly shifted in this scenario. और फिर तुम्हारे पास लोग भी चीजें बोल रहे हैं, तुम्हारा खुद का एक पेडेस्टल पे तुम चढ़े हुए हो, तुम्हें लोग और चढ़ा रहे हैं, but you're not able to mentally cope up with the pressure of that expectation.
Right. Definitely. I feel it was वो period where it was कि हाँ, I've done so good up until now in life. अब suddenly क्या हो रहा है? Was up until I actually got the internship, which got converted, and now I'm working full time at that. Because तब से अब तक I was just figuring things out. Because I started working as a software engineer. Then मुझे पता चला कि यार ये तो सही नहीं चल रहा है. मतलब जितना मुझे मजा आ रहा है उतना चाहिए in my work I am not able to do. यहाँ आके भी things were so bad, the market was so bad. It all sort of like, it just felt like I am going through the lowest phase of my career. And then wo insecurities and everything. But there are two ways which I feel at this point in time. Like a person can go into their like darkest phase, just give up on everything, and like give it all up. I feel there are times when people, then I've seen it myself, ki people give up on life and just like float. They just float.
The normal flow state.
हाँ. और फिर otherwise you have to like get hold of everything, and then you have to be like, nahi, like I have to go through it, I have to face it. And then on the other side, there is a life which you are like, ठीक है, this is what I wanted always. Like, but that rough wala jo phase hai, it's very difficult. I feel, but that is when I learned a lot in my life. I feel this is also something where like you introspect. What do you think? Did you learn or वो introspection वाला element was there during that phase for you?
Absolutely, yeah. I think, I mean, fortunately, I'm doing good in life in terms of the work that I'm doing. I'm happy about it. And I don't think I would have been so happy if I had not gone through that phase, because that gave me clear red flags. People like me, ये चीजें तो फिर से नहीं कर. जिस कंपनी में मेरे को दिख गया कि there is a fingerprint on entry and exit, I'm never gonna join that company. I'm very clear about it, right? Just company mein where people are sitting together and I don't know if it's Kunal Shah or someone has said that ki, the best way to see a culture of a company is कि उनके office में जाओ और अगर pin drop silence है, then you know that something is wrong. So those gives that bad phase gives you very good understanding कि तुम्हें life में क्या नहीं चाहिए. बाकी figure out हो जाता है. बाकी क्या चाहिए, it takes time for you to figure out. But क्या नहीं चाहिए is also a very good database to have with yourself to move forward.
I feel we were also fortunate in the sense कि वो जो phase है, that bad phase, we had people who were supportive. We had at least mechanisms where we could realize, or we were at least self-aware to a point where we could take that step, and then we could get us back on the track which we want to. Like, for example, there are a lot of situations where I've seen people around me who kind of go into that spiral and unfortunately are not able to bring themselves back up.
I agree, yaar. And I think when you're in that spiral, it's very easy to feel कि you're very unique and तुम्हारा problem बहुत unique है to yourself. ये कोई और समझ नहीं सकता, किसी और ने face नहीं किया. Whereas that's not the fact. 80, 90, 95% of the problems in the world have been felt by other people and they have found solutions, and you can go and reach out to the right people and figure that out and solve it out. But you don't feel that. You feel कि मैं अपने problem के बारे में बताऊंगा, it's so unique कि कोई समझ ही नहीं पाता. That spiral, that thought is not right. I feel that just changing that thought can bring a massive impact on how you deal with the entire scenario.
True. It's like वो self-pity takes you into a spiral where you feel you like glorify your issues firstly, because there are people out there who are not able to afford a day worth of food. Like, there are people out there who are not as gifted as you are when it comes to like everything that you can do, right from mobility to your mental health and everything. Like, so why, like, gratefulness is something which I've brought into practice in my life during that time, and like a perspective change that whatever happens will happen for the greater good in my life. This is a step where like I've recently read this wherein you think it's your perspective at the end of the day. Your perspective, and the other day also I was talking to this friend where जब चीजें होती है जो तुम्हारे हिसाब से जाती है, well and good. You planned what you got. This is how things were going for me up until engineering ended. But when that thing came where I was like कि अभी मेरे हिसाब से कुछ नहीं जा रहा है, I've been wanting this, नहीं मिल रहा है. I feel कि at the end of at that moment you feel कि you are going through the worst phase. ये सब ऐसे वैसे. But there are things which I couldn't see at that point in time जिससे ज़्यादा चीज़ें I have learned, and then now I'm at a very better state in life or condition in life, which I feel looking back in the hindsight कि अच्छा हुआ जो भी हुआ, I got those lessons which prepared me.
Yeah.
ठीक है. Let's talk about the present. अभी कैसा चल रहा है काम? How do you feel about your work life now?
Yeah, abhi it's amazing. I love my work. Love the work that I'm doing, the people I'm working with, the culture I'm working with. But I want to pick that word, like culture wala jo word hai. I want to know what do you mean by that?
I feel, see, there are different kinds of people. One who want to have that work-life balance. But I am also a person who feels that my work is my passion. So when I'm working, I'm not actually working. I've come to the point where I am working. So I myself not be the right person to ask about a work-life balance. But in general, like, are you happy with your work? It's not about like just working 8 hours, not feeling that work pressure. But in general, I feel a work-life balance is something where you feel happy here. वो फिर तुम 4 घंटे काम कर रहे हो, तुम 8 घंटे काम कर रहे हो, तुम 10 घंटे काम कर रहे हो, that is on you. That is every person's choice. But something that feels good to you.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. What I'd like to add is कि यार, I think the problem is कि हम companies पे बहुत pressure डाल रहे हैं to create that work-life balance. Because अगर एक company generalize करके लिए सबके लिए work-life balance बनाएगा तो वो बन ही नहीं सकता. Because as individuals, all of us want different things. There can be one person who wants कि यार मैं सुबह 10 बजे ऑफिस पहुंचूं, 6 बजे फ्री हो जाऊं, 6 से बाद में अपनी फैमिली को टाइम दो and be okay with it. I am the kind of person who wants the flexibility. I take calls at 11 or 12 at night, but I have the flexibility कि अगर मॉम को शॉपिंग कराना है भी 2 घंटा, I can block my calendar, keep I'm out of office, and I have the flexibility to do that. Then there are people who want to go into work for long hours, and for at least the start of the culture, they want to go through that hustle. So I think every individual has a different sort of expectation and definition of work life. I think the problem is कि a company cannot fulfill all of their work lives because एक company में तो हर किसी का अलग अलग होगा. So the question then becomes कि तुम्हारा जो expectation है तुम्हारे काम के साथ, can that align with the way company functions? If not, then you need to find the company which aligns in that way. Like I was saying, I cannot go back to a company where मेरे को 9 से 5 काम करना पड़ेगा, खुश ही नहीं रह पाऊँ. But that's my personal choice. And now it's not a company's job to change their rules कि मैं 9 से 5 की जगह पे flexibility दूँ. I think it's my job to now find those companies where I would fit in well.
This is exactly the point. Now the situation is in your hand. The difference between 3-4 years ago when you were in that situation, you felt helpless as to मैं अभी इसमें कुछ नहीं कर सकता. I have to fit into that.
Yeah.
Now you're like कि अगर ये नहीं सही चल रहा है तो I can change it. That is the confidence which I feel is also came into the picture after you took that step, that leap of faith, you switched.
Absolutely.
And now you're into that situation.
Absolutely.
Do you think, like, or in your knowledge, do companies, at least in India, probably would have someone as a therapist for people to, do they have or like have it right now? Because I feel there is this gap which could be filled, jahan pe even if like there is a person who speaks to you about it and like can help you get through it, at least in your own workplace itself.
Absolutely, yaar. I think this is one of the best solutions out there, at least available today, which is accessible. The only problem is, again, knowledge is an issue. Not a lot of people know that it is available. Not a lot of people are comfortable showing that they are taking an external help to maintain their well-being, right? Companies don't have an incentive to push that on employees. Like I was talking to a friend of mine who tried to build a business in the mental health space. He was telling me that most of these companies that are now coming up as startups in India, they make money through B2B sales, like a group of therapists or a company which manages therapists, outsourcing the entire package to the company. But the usage rate is less than 1 or 2%. Like 1 or 2%, less than 1 or 2% people are actually going to these therapists. So it's more a status game for these companies that, okay, we have this facility available, we are a good place to work, than actually making sure that people use it and implement it. I'm not sure on what level can this be pushed on employees to go and take these therapies, but at least awareness, at least information, ease of accessibility, and most importantly, that cultural change, all this is normal, is very, very important.
I feel, yeah, exactly. This is what I was going to say. There is still the taboo revolves around it. वो normalize जब होगा तब people will feel will put their defense mechanisms down, go and talk to the people or like the therapist who the company has. It's like more of a two-way street than just the companies doing it. I feel in general there has to be a shift of those lens and those culture, right?
Yeah, and I think that's where all these initiatives come up. Like the podcast that you are doing. In general, we talk about therapy. I don't think we did that when we were in college. Now, हमारे पास थोड़ा knowledge आ गया तो हम बात कर पाते हैं. But in general, if let's say you are a person जिसको पता है कि therapy helps, अंधा दिन बात करो, लोगों को बताओ कि अरे कल पे देख, try करके देख क्या होता है. Make it very casual and normal in your conversation. And I think the moment we as people start doing that, parents start doing that, then I think would that cultural shift act.
100%. Yes. Okay. Great. What does Nitin today in his life practice on a daily basis, or like just practice as habits to make sure that your mental well-being is in place, is right?
Yes, I have given therapy a try. I mean, I'm trying to make it a habit. My habit is कि जब problem आएगी तब therapist के पास जाऊँगा. That does not work. You have to think for months to actually see an impact. You have to do a lot of introspection. Fortunately, my biggest support system is my friends and my family. I mean, amongst the distribution of my friends, everyone knows thing about me. Like one person might not know 100% about me, but the entire group knows कि मेरे लाइफ में क्या क्या हो रहा है. So I have those people जिनको मैं कुछ ना कुछ push कर सकता हूँ, अपने वर्डन्स उन पर डाल देता हूँ. So that's very easy for me to do now, and that's something that really helps me out a lot. And yeah, just having conversations, just talking to people, even to my seniors. I think I have now, because I've been working in my company for 3-4 years, and I work directly with my founders and amazing people. I can go and talk about my personal life issues with them very openly. And I try to do the same with my team members, my peers, my team members in the company also. So I think just having those conversations, and once you realize, okay, something is not wrong, then actually going and taking a professional help, definitely.
Great. Okay. Any suggestion that you would want to give for someone who would be facing this situation right now, which you faced, or like for that person who just couldn't handle it?
I think two suggestions here. First, you are not the only one. If you are going through something, there are 100,000 others who are going through the same thing. It's just the 100,000 are not talking to each other, and that's why everyone is going through that thing. Start talking about it. You'll figure out people are going through similar things. You'll figure out solutions. There are books written about each and every problem. There are podcasts available, videos available, and then there are professionals who can help you out. So I think definitely start talking, start figuring it out, and don't go in that shell that this is a unique problem to yourself, and इसके बाद तो कुछ नहीं हो सकता, मेरे को ये संभालना है, मेरे पे दुनिया का पूरा बोझ. I think that feeling is not good. And I think the second, I mean, everyone needs to realize whatever place you are in, it's not the end of the world. There's something that can be done, something that can happen. You can't feel that it's the end of the world, because that's what would lead to a bad decision, I feel.
Yeah, I feel there has to be a faith. There is a silver lining somewhere. You just have to keep going. You just have to keep going. And then talking about listening to podcasts, this is what we started out the podcast with, to like make it more normalized karna hai, right from, because I feel when it comes to your physical health, there are doctors, you go to a doctor. When it comes to your mental health, who do you go to? And then there has been such a big taboo, at least I feel in our culture, is where ki ye sab kuch nahi hota. Ye sab tum bas bahane bana rahe ho. There is also this thin line of like self-pity, but there is also this line where you are like not allowed to think of it that way. We have to like kind of tread in between that. And this is what we need to, like, as a generation, I feel our responsibility is going forward.
I think just to add into that, यार कि when you're unhealthy, तुम्हारा face मोटा हो जाता है, पेट भारी हो जाता है, muscles नहीं दिखते हैं. There are physical aspects that you know something is going wrong, so you can take corrective measures. Similarly, there are these mental cues which you can figure out कि यार अगर सेम चीज तुम्हें किसी चीज से trigger हो रही, same feeling बार बार आ रही है, look out for those cues. Your body gives you signals. Introspect a bit, spend time with yourself, do things that you like. And I think then you'll start figuring out if something is right, something is wrong, and then you can work around it.
True. 100%. Yes. Love that point. Okay. Final question to Nitin. What would you want to say that 18-year-old or 20-year-old who was doing his engineering, figuring out life, was kind of confused what would 27-year-old Nitin would want to say to her?
I would just say that be at it. Keep doing things, try things, or work on things. Something or the other will click, and then you'll find your way and work it out. Just don't give up and be comfortable with the side situation you are in.
I feel one more thing that I have observed in you is the fear of failure nahi hai. Like, you are a person who will explore, who will try things without feeling ki, like there is always this spirit ki theek hai, ye nahi chala to kuch aur dusra kar lenge, ye nahi chala to dusra aur kar lenge, which is also something which I have learned from you personally.
Thanks for that, yeah.
Great. बहुत अच्छा लगा बात करके. I think it's very important and something which is a need of the hour where we had to talk about this. Like,
Absolutely.
And given, I feel it's also this thing where there is a spike where something bad happens and then people talk about it. फिर उसके बाद एक दो महीने बाद it again goes down. Nobody is talking about it. Then there has to be some new incident. This is just our attempt at like making sure that we put things out there so that someone somewhere out there would stand up for themselves or take that step to do better for themselves and change their life. Thank you for joining. It was a pleasure and ऐसी बात करते रहेंगे बढ़िया आगे भी.
Thanks for having me here.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone.